Hello, I'm Emma of Granola Gear, and I'm so excited to be back chatting with you today about what I have been knitting on lately. I have one finished object I'm so psyched is over, and I'm really going full bore with all the woolly knits now. So I'm psyched about that. It's gonna be fall time, guys. I'm not an early fall person. I'm not one of those people who says it's August, it's time for fall, but my hands are done with the summer yarns. I might cast on one more thing eventually, but for now, I'm going back to the woolly stuff. And it's not so hot anymore that I feel like I have to be using cottons and things. I can use the wool and it's not going to kill me. But today I'm wearing my Elizabeth blouse by Petite Knit, which is knit in Paintbox Cotton DK. It's a very cozy summer sweater because it's just a cotton, which is my favorite. It's really nice that it's cool enough that I can actually put this on and not like be dying of heat, which is super great. I have been wearing like tank tops and stuff, and I was thinking about wearing my Barbaro top that I just finished, but it's just not warm enough for it. So I'm putting on this and I'm pretty happy about it. Don't know if it matches with my shirt, but it is what it is. I'm cozy right now, and that's what matters for filming this. So I will get into it then. And the piece that I am really psyched that is finally finished is my Friday tee, which is by Petite Knit. The main like pinky peachy color is unraveled from a thrifted sweater, and the blue is leftover drops saffron in cobalt. Sorry, I'm just like looking at it because I just finished blocking it, so I haven't looked at it really thoroughly yet. Leftover drops saffron and cobalt, which it's really funny. I had like a skein and one full skein and like a partial skein left, and I thought I would use all of it and maybe not have quite enough left, and I actually had quite a lot left, which now I don't know what to do with that. This was supposed to be busting that scrap. But I'm very happy with how it turned out. I shortened the body a teeny bit from what the pattern would be because honestly, I was just so done. I needed my 3mm off of this, and I was tired of knitting it. I was tired of the broken rib. The pink yarn, as I've said, was like a little hard to work with, so it was just kind of rough on my hands, and I was over it. I blocked it. I was worried about bleeding, and I'm looking at it, and it didn't really bleed, but like maybe it did a tiny bit. I put some of those color absorbing sheets in there. I put 2 in, which is like more than you need, but I don't know if they need agitation to work. Not that the agitation wouldn't activate this sheet, but like to move around and catch all the color. Like I've used them one other time and the sheet itself got darker, so I knew that it absorbed something, but this time it didn't really get darker. I don't know. I don't really know if it worked or not. So, I mean, like if you look at it, I don't think you can see any bleeding. It's just when I look at it really close, I think, oh, maybe. Also, I spilled some coffee on this while I was knitting on it, and it might not be all the way out. I might need to put some spot cleaning stuff on that because I was worried about the bleeding, so I didn't want to like put the spot of coffee that I had gotten on it in water and then have the blue bleed in one place and have it be weird. I don't know. It's a whole thing, but I'm happy with how this turned out. It's a very cute top. It's a nice cotton tee. It's pretty lightweight. It's got a good drape. I mean, I just have liked this pattern for a while. I think the broken rib looks really nice with the really wide raglan. I was just, after knitting cami number 7, I was pretty done with broken rib and I wanted it to be over. And I knew, like, I only have one set of 3mm needles and I had other 3mm things that I wanted to work on. But I knew that if I was taking them off of this, that I would like not want to put them back on and not want to finish. So I kind of like made a deal with myself that I would keep 3mm needles on this piece until I finished. So it could just be done. And I did, and it's done. And I don't think no real mods other than the length. I might need to add some elastic to the collar. I'm not really sure yet. I maybe made this, no, I think I made the sleeves the same length. See, I'm looking at this and I'm still thinking maybe it bled a little bit. I don't know. I'll wash it a few more times and see how it comes out because when I use this blue on its own, it did lose a lot of color because it is a cotton too, so it's not surprising. But yeah, that's very cute. And then I have 2 other finished objects. One of them, I'll start with that one, is something I actually finished a while ago, and I don't have a picture of it because I already wrapped it. It's a wedding gift for my friend, and so I've been holding off on showing it. She's getting married this Saturday, and this video will come out the Wednesday after that. Sorry if I keep bumping my mic. But I didn't want to show it because she watches this sometimes. So I knit her the mini Augustine's number 5, which is like a little circular blanket. It's not like a blanket, it's just kind of a throw. It's really cute and pretty, and I thought she would appreciate it. And it was fun to knit. It's knit in, I don't remember the yarn type, but it's like a polyester yarn that's kind of fuzzy that I have just had in stash, and it was a nice sagey color. It's a worsted weight yarn, so I don't think it's exactly what the pattern called for, but it's a blanket, so it didn't really matter that much. I had a lot of fun knitting that pattern, and I would definitely knit one of her circle blankets again, but I did have 2 issues. I'll see if I know I have pictures of one of them, but I'm not sure if I have pictures illustrating the other one. If I do, I will like circle what I mean. But basically there was a section with twisted stitches and like it was like twisted stitch and then yarn overs to make like an eyelet hole between another twisted stitch. But one of them looked normal and one of them was really open because of how the pattern worked. It was like every other round you like weren't actually twisting the stitch, so in the end it didn't really look right at all. And I didn't realize this until further along because I was working my way out, and it's hard when the motif is so small still to figure out like what the intention of what something is supposed to look like if this is, I'm knitting it to pattern, is this what the pattern is supposed to look like? And I think that is just the way it's written. I looked at project pages and other people's were like that too, but it was just kind of frustrating because it didn't look as even. I don't know how you would fix it. I think it was because maybe you were doing one row, you would just do a twisted stitch, and the other row you were doing some kind of like decrease. And so in that decrease, you weren't twisting the stitch. I don't know, it just didn't look right. And I was kind of frustrated that I spent all this time on this. And she won't notice but it is like kind of a big deal. Like if you knit, you can totally see it. It's not like a super hidden thing, but I was frustrated with that. And the other thing was you knit this big circle going out, and then you add the border on afterwards, and you knit it like this, and then you join at the end. And looking at all the photos, like I don't think any of them is really like a full photo of the whole thing. Just assumed like there's some coherent way to join this border when you reach the other side that looks relatively invisible or just less noticeable, and there just isn't. You just bind it off and sew it, and it's very obvious, and the photos are just oriented in a way that you can't really tell, like the sample photos. And I saw similar things in people's project pages, and like that might just be what it is. Like there might not really be a good solution for that pattern. I was just like not expecting it. I was expecting like a full clean thing and you don't notice or anything, but I'd probably figure out some kind of measures in the future to keep it from doing that or make it a little less obvious, because I was just annoyed that it was pretty obvious, the join, in a blanket especially, because there isn't really like it's not like the back of a sweater, like it's a circle. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But I did like it. It was fun. I knit another one of her little blankets, I think. It's a very pretty lace motif. But yeah, that was my beef. Sorry, just inhaled too much. But I always have some kind of beef. But my other last finished object is it's like a bit of an experimental project before something else, and that is the snotty sweater, sandy sweater. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but it's this adorable little mini sweater, and the pattern is free and it's written for a fingering weight yarn. And I was looking at what I had, and I didn't have any fingering weight, but I still wanted it to be small. So I used a DK, and I ended up not being able to do all the increases because it was going to get too big and all of that. So I just kind of finagled it. I just wanted to see if I could get away with the DK, but I don't think I can. Because I have another friend whose wedding is coming up, and she doesn't watch these, so it's safe to say this, but she is a huge Harry Potter fan. So I was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I got her like a regular wedding gift, and then I wanted to do something a little special to go along with it because she's a very crafty person as well, so I know she'll appreciate it. Both of these friends that I've knit for are, so that's why I'm doing it. and she's a huge Harry Potter fan. She's like, oh, I'll do Harry Potter sweaters, one for her and one for her husband, like with their first initial on it, and make a little hanger, or get a little hanger, and then it can be a Christmas ornament. Because I feel like when you get married, when you're younger, like I'm a sentimental ornaments on the tree kind of person. That's my preference. I like things mismatchy. So if you're that kind of person and you're not like a it's I mean there's nothing against just going out and buying all matching ornaments, but for me, especially my first Christmas, I was like, oh no, I don't have any ornaments, and I don't want to go out and buy stuff that just like all matches. I want like fun stuff that I made and that means something. So I like crocheted a bunch of random stuff to put on the tree. So I wanted to give her something to start off that, and if she doesn't want to use it on her tree, she can obviously put it somewhere else. That's fine too. It was just I thought it would be a nice little sentimental thing to do. But yeah, that is that. So this was my test, and I'll talk more later about what I'm actually gonna do. Um, but those are my finished objects. Then I have 3 whips, which I'm really excited about. The first one I had talked about when I had this acquisition, which is a cone of yarn that I actually thrifted, which is pretty amazing. It's the Jagerspun. I don't know exactly. Mainline 3/8. It's 100% wool, and it's in the color daffodil. And it's spun in Maine, and I'm from Maine, so that's pretty cool. And I'm knitting the April cardigan. I So this was included in the coffee spilling incident. I just like spilled coffee everywhere, including on my computer, which was a nightmare, but it still works. But I spilled it on top of the cone, and I like took a sponge and kind of wiped it off, but I didn't want to unravel all this yarn and try and wash it. So I was like, you know what? Just knit it up, and then the spots of coffee will wash out when I block. So there's a couple little brown spots where there was coffee, but I've knit through all of the coffee bits, so it's fine now. But back to the knitting. This is going to be an April cardigan. I actually put a poll on my Instagram because I was debating between this and the Eva cardigan. I've knit the Eva cardigan also by Petite Knit, but I knit it for my mom, and I really like the pattern. I'd like to do one for myself at some point, and this is a DK weight yarn, so I thought it might be an option. But people agreed with me that it should probably be an April cardigan. My reasoning behind this is I'm not a huge yellow person. I have things that are in yellow and I wear them. I wore yellow shoes yesterday. I have other yellow sweaters, but I don't like yellow as the dominant color in my outfit. Like I'll like to color block with like pastel yellows like this, but I don't want it to be like big yellow sweater and then I'm working around it. It's like I'm wearing a pink dress that I like and I'm throwing a yellow sweater on top of it, that kind of thing. So the Eva cardigan is much more oversized and like loose, and I felt like that was going to make it too dominant. I didn't want like a big oversized yellow sweater, and the April cardigan is a lot more fitted. I have another one, it's in a cashmere, and it's nice to throw over stuff. It doesn't feel as overpowering of a garment, so it's less of that color. So I felt like it was most fitting. I'm working on, I've done, you increase like kind of in a raglan style, but it makes these sort of saddle shoulder bits on the side. This is the top. And now I'm starting and adding the sleeve sections here. This has been a nice yarn to work with so far. I think there may be some moth-eaten bits in that. So as I come upon them, I'm just kind of pulling it apart at the loose part and then felting the ends back together so it's stronger. But that's only happened once or twice. I think maybe it might happen more once I get towards the middle. It's usually stuff that's like right in here that there may have been some issues, but I don't know. It's been fine. I think that might also be like a milling issue. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be a really cute piece. It's nice to be working on needles that aren't 3mm anymore. That was also sort of my thought process. Yeah, I try, and when it comes to sweaters, I look at what I have and then I pick something that I'm still excited about to knit so that I am doing it while I'm excited about it, but then also just like working through what I have. I'm very much like a yarn first knitter. I have this big cone. It's totally functional for a new piece. I don't have to put a lot of thought behind figuring out how to use it like I do with some things that are really scrappy, but yeah, that's going to be a cool piece. The next one I'll mention is I had maybe started a sleeve last time, and this is the Maria from the Memory Lane book by Claudia Quintanilla. pre-orders are open for this book now. I'm very excited about it. It's some really beautiful designs, like a lot of applique stuff. Beading, this one's gonna have some beading. I have to find suitable beads for it, so I'm working on the pattern uh, still now. In I think there's some more photos of it, so we'll see if I can add one. The sample is a lot more mohairy, but I went for something more rustic, and these are both unraveled sweater yarns, both from Old Navy sweaters, which is so funny. Both 100% wool. I only have this brown skein attached. I did both the sleeves, and the neckline is a picot edge, which I've never done, and it's so cute. I love it. It's adorable. I've never done a picot edge. My sleeves, like I had said before, it was wrap and turn for the short rows, and I did German short rows because that's just my preference. I also, so these are like, you might be able to tell they look nice and then they get less nice, and that's because I actually finished the first sleeve, this sleeve, and I was not sure about the length. I could tell it was probably going to grow some, but I wasn't sure how much. So I decided to block it. And same thing with the body. Like the body is partially blocked. And I actually blocked the neckline, but I hadn't sewn it down yet, so it's not quite in its final form. But I blocked it, and I'm glad I did because the sleeves weren't quite long enough for me. I don't think it's a gauge issue necessarily. It might just be like a my shape thing, because the length is by measurement. It's once you do the decreases, it's knit to X inches for your size. And mine just wasn't quite long enough. So I had finished it. So I just unraveled past the color work and then knit. I think I had to knit like 3 additional inches. Yeah, like 3 additional inches. But it was fine, like as long as you keep it in check. I haven't done a lot of really fitted sweaters, so for me that was not something I had run into before, because with looser sweaters you're like usually starting, like my armpit isn't down here, obviously my armpit is over here, so like the looseness of the body plays into the length of the arm, and I've never had an issue with like petite knit sleeve lengths. I pretty much knit them exactly what she says for decreases, and then by the time I'm at the end it's the perfect length, and then it's fit well for me. But yeah, so I guess that may have played into it. And then it's a folded hem here, and I did two different techniques for how I attach the folded hem on both of these, and I'm probably going to go back and change this one. This one I sewed it down, which is what she says to do, but I usually like knitting it down because it's faster, and that's what I did here, and it like doesn't look as good. So I think I may go unravel the knitted down one and redo it to be sewn down at some point. But I'm currently at like right before where the color work for the body stops. I think I also made the body a teeny bit longer because I was worried it wasn't going to be quite long enough. But yeah, I'm excited about the color work. I actually started it and then I realized that I like hadn't counted my stitches because there's waist shaping. It gets larger. I hadn't counted my stitches and I was like totally off. So I had to unravel quite a bit. Usually I would just add them, but there's like so you're doing the waist shaping. So it's whatever. And I just, for some reason, just stopped doing the increases at some point. I just, apparently my brain said like screw it, no more increases, and I just kept knitting stockinette until I was at the length. And then you add stitches around before you go into the color work, and I added those stitches, but it still wasn't long enough. And then I went back and I was like, I like missed 2 sets of increases. What was I thinking? So I had to go back and redo that, but it didn't take too long because it was stockinette. After knitting all that broken rib and like knitting really small stuff, I was really excited to be doing woolly stockinette again that I don't have to look at. So psyched about that. I'll get into the color work soon, but I feel like I'm kind of still like early with it. I don't know, like I can't wear this for a long time because it's really woolly. So I'm like kind of pacing myself, and nobody else who I think is involved with this has started a pattern yet either. So I'm kind of ahead of the game. But yeah, so that was fun. That's Memory Lane by Claudia Quintanilla. Then the last piece is something I'm picking back up now that I have my 3mm back. I originally was going to cast on a Cumulus tee in the pure silk that I had gotten when I finished that, but I decided, you know what, I have other things. I wanted to finish some lingering whips that had just been sitting there in a basket, and I had only really paused them because it was summertime and I wanted to do other things. So I felt comfortable picking them back up, and once I finish them, maybe I'll cast that on. We will see. And it is basically a cumulus tee that I picked back up, but it's in cashmere instead of silk. And this is also unraveled from sweaters, two different ones. This pale pink that's like super duper fine, held with this cream color that's like double that size. So altogether, they make like a light fingering. Um, and I had gotten through the yoke and a decent amount of the body. It's a little wrinkled from being in a basket. This isn't very different from the last time I showed it, but just in case you didn't see that then, it merles together to make this nice pale pink. Um, I'm planning on doing long sleeves on this if I have enough yarn, which I think I probably will. I'm going to get a little bit further on the body though before I commit to that, just in case. Yeah, I blocked this out at some point just to make sure everything was going good. So it is all blocked out how it's going to be. And it's a very pretty piece. It's so soft. It's kind of funny because like this one that's so fine, it's basically thread. Like you can't really tell that it's soft like this. And this one's maybe a little bit more soft, but you can't tell just feeling the strand. But all together in the thing, it's just so soft. Love a good cashmere. Never bought it new in a ball, but doesn't mean I can't love it. It's a beautiful thing to work with. My Goodwill is open again and I'm so excited about it. And they had a bunch of cashmere sweaters when I went there, but they were all really fine weights. And I was like, I don't really feel like figuring out holding a bunch of things together right now. I've got plenty of projects to work on, so maybe later. But that is all my works in progress. And then I have one acquisition, and it has to do with the little mini sweater I had done. And the ball's kind of messed up because I was going to cast my project on for a show. I was like last second invited to go see Les Mis with someone I know. And then I was like, you know what, it's going to be too dark and it has increases. So I don't think that makes sense to bring. So I wrapped it back up for now. But it's Jamison's Shetland Spindrift and it's in the color Matter. So this is perfect for the little Harry Potter sweaters. So I'm going to knit two little Harry Potter sweaters. And then I think I'm going to use like a yellowy gold embroidery floss to do the letters duplicate stitched onto it because I don't really have a yarn that I think is suitable. And I think that will look fine. If the duplicate stitch isn't looking right, I'll just embroider it on. But yeah, I'm really psyched about this. This is just a fingering weight. Supposedly, according to the pattern, this is going to be enough for, two sweaters. And I guess I'll trust that, and I hope it is. I'm sure it's fine. I always end up with extra of everything. I don't know how that is. Like I know I maybe when I order stuff, especially if it's 50-gram balls, so the increments are so much smaller, I order what seems like the correct amount, maybe like one extra ball, and then I end up with like 3 extra. I'm like, what do I do with this? But yeah, so that's all the yarn stuff for today. I will really quickly mention the books I've been reading. One book that I recently finished was When the Moon Hatched by Sarah Parker, and that was a really excellent book. There were a few things I wasn't like a huge fan of, but it's kind of like the classic romanticy issues of like maybe not written super perfectly, but the story was good. It was a little bit jumpy at times, and like of course it always probably could have been written a little bit better, but for a quick read, an enjoyable story about dragons. It was fun and I liked it. It's about basically a girl who's like lost all her memories and is like working as an assassin or whatever in the underbelly, and her going on this grand adventure and figuring all this stuff out. So it was a good book. And then the one I'm currently reading is The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. And that is a novel that's a continuation of the Discovery of Witches series. I have a couple of the books behind me that I read pretty recently. And it's a new release, the Discovery of Witches books. I think the first one came out in like 2011. And then this book came out this year, pretty recently. So it's a very new edition. And that's been pretty good so far. It's about the character in this book and she had like twins in the most recent book, and so it's about them like getting older and that kind of thing. But it's been good so far and I've been enjoying it. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're having a great time knitting whatever you're knitting. Let me know what you've been working on, what you've been up to. I really would appreciate it. I love hearing those things in the comments. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.